Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld, and today we're going to tackle another Q&A to celebrate my 5k subscriber milestone. I asked you guys the other day to submit questions and I had a ton come in, so I'll do my best to answer them all and hopefully you'll all learn something. Before we start though, I just want to give a big thanks to everyone who subscribes to this channel because I really couldn't do this without you guys. I make these videos as much for you guys as I do for myself, so make sure you keep watching them, liking and commenting because it really means a lot to me. But anyway, the first question comes from Daniel Volak, who writes, "What part of Australia are you from?" Now, I get this question a lot. I'm actually from Newcastle, which is in New South Wales on the east coast, about an hour and a half north of Sydney. Okay, so Bizarre Ghost writes, "What are your thoughts on sniping mechanics in Battlefield Hardline?" Well, to be honest, I haven't really played anything except the Hardline beta, and I didn't really snipe that much in that game, but I've got to say I really did like the sniping. It felt a bit more like Bad Company 2. It feels like the hitboxes are a bit bigger, and I'm pretty keen to see what the actual gameplay's like. Okay, so Jawim1J writes, "What is the difference between playing Battlefield 4 on the PS3 from the PS4? Do you think it's really big?" Well, yeah, it is, man. It's basically running at a higher resolution of 1080p. It's also running at 60 FPS versus 30 FPS. Now, that's not a constant 60 FPS, but let's just say it's a lot smoother than the PS3 version. And also, there's bigger maps on some of the Conquest large maps, and there's more players in any one server at any one time. Okay, so Neil O'Brien Thompson writes, "I'd like to ask you, do you play on EU or Australian servers?" Well, normally, man, I play on Australian servers. On PC, I pretty much only play on Australian servers, but on PS4, I actually play on North American servers a lot as well, and that's because a lot of my subscribers are from America or from Europe, and I want them to be able to jump in with me. Okay, so Inca's Empire writes, "What's your favourite video on your own channel?" That's a really good question. To be honest, it's probably one that most people haven't watched. I really liked the Mario Top 5 video. Took me a long time to do that video, and I knew it wouldn't get as many views, but I really enjoy Mario games, and I really liked making that video. Okay, so It's Potato writes, "How long does it take to cut down a fig tree in Newcastle?" Now, you probably won't understand this unless you're from Newcastle, but basically, in Newcastle, there's like a park next to an art gallery and a library, and it used to have these really big old fig trees there, and they started to get unsafe. To be honest, I don't even know why they cut them down. All I heard was that they were just a safety issue, and literally it got to the point where there were so many people protesting cutting down these trees that the council spent millions of dollars to have 24-hour security guards guarding these trees, just in case, someone was to walk underneath them and get killed by them. Anyway, it takes a long time to cut down a fig tree in Newcastle. Okay, so the next question comes from Bailey Chisholm, who writes, "Are you a big fan of State of Origin? Because I'm in Queensland and you're in New South Wales." Okay, so for everyone who isn't from Australia, basically, just to let you know, State of Origin is basically a rugby game. We call it football in Australia. We don't actually call soccer football. So just to get that out of the way, I'm not really a big fan of football, and therefore I'm not really a big fan of State of Origin either. And I think it's funny because the funny thing about State of Origin is that most of the people in the Queensland team aren't actually from Queensland, and most of the people in New South Wales aren't from New South Wales. So I just don't really understand it. Okay, so coming up next, Ryan Miller writes, "Who or what inspired you to create a YouTube channel?" Well, probably the first channel that I can remember getting into was the Angry Video Game Nerd. For any of you who didn't already know, I'm a big fan of retro gaming and I actually collect retro games and consoles. I'd say other inspirations would be Frankie on PC for sure, Level Cap, Jack Frags for sure, X Factor definitely, and probably I'd have to say Matimio as well. Okay, so the next question comes from someone who I'm about to butcher their name. Demetris Kazonis? I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't really know. Maybe you can help me out. What are your advices to a new YouTuber? Thanks. Biggest advice to new YouTubers, I've actually got a video on this. Just have a look in my videos. It's, I think, top 5 tips for new YouTubers. Basically, just post a lot. And make sure you keep talking to your subscribers. Make sure you reply to comments. Make sure that you're on Twitter, on Facebook, that sort of thing. Okay, so Simo Heikkinen writes, your favourite single-player game, ? Okay, so probably Fallout 3. I also like Baldur's Gate 2. Lots of RPGs, basically. Really, I think that's about it. Okay, so the next question comes from Dazzle Dick, who writes, do you like punk/rock or similar bands to BillyEatWorld? Yeah, man, that's pretty much the main thing that I listen to. If you haven't already, check out a band called 4 Year Strong. I also like bands like Saves the Day, Newfound Glory, The Starting Line, All Time Low, that sort of thing. Okay, so Bada Jari writes, have you got a favourite gun which isn't featured in BF4? Which would you want to see? Maybe the 6th DLC or a future Battlefield title? Definitely the HK417. It's a great little modular DMR/assault rifle/battle rifle, which is pretty much the same as the M416, but in a higher caliber. And the next question comes from Max Monahan, who writes, when are your band releasing a new song and what do you play? Well, to be honest, I've been taking a bit of time out from my band. I've been focusing mainly on this channel, so you guys should feel special. So I'm not exactly sure when we'll release any new music, but as for what I play, I am the lead vocalist, and I also play pretty much the rhythm guitar. Okay, so the next question comes from Gaming Little Shit, who writes, are you in a new relationship? Well, I actually am, man, as of yesterday. So that's new to me, and she probably is going to watch this video, so I probably should give a shout out to her. I won't actually say her name, but she knows who she is, and hi. Okay, so the next question comes from Sharpshooter Gaming, who writes, do you Twitch stream often? Man, I don't really Twitch stream at all, and that's because, number one, in Australia we don't really have fast internet speeds. There's only fibre in certain places in Australia, and I don't actually have fibre to my house yet. And number two, I don't really watch a lot of Twitch, and I'm not sure if I'd be really into the whole Twitch thing. I like to sort of script my videos out and make sure that what I'm saying is right. And yeah, I think I'll probably keep doing that for a little while, and I'll maybe start Twitch streaming when the internet connection gets a bit better. Okay, so the next question comes from Jim Jimmer. Billy, you big unit, how many push-ups can you do in a row? I'm going to say maybe like 3. I don't think I've really tried, you know, like I'm a gamer for Christ's sake. I don't really, you know, like I don't lift, bro. Okay, so coming up next, Rackney M writes, what kind of new vehicle would you like to see in the future of Battlefield? Well, if it's in the future, we've already got hover tanks, we've already got things like the Accipiter drone, all of this sort of futuristic stuff. It is currently 2015, and for anyone who's seen Back to the Future 2, you'd know that hoverboards are coming this year. So that means I'd like to probably see hoverboards in the future of Battlefield. Okay, so the next question comes from Win Tenny, who writes, if you could use only one gun for the rest of your Battlefield 4 career, which one and which attachments would you use? Man, this is a really easy question. The M16A4 for sure. I always use, right now, the Vert Grip. I always use the Flash Hider, the Hollow Sight, and I sort of switch back and forth between the Green Laser and the Magnifier, so I'd probably pick the Magnifier. Alright, so the next question comes from Noah Wilkin, who writes, Billy, what other games do you play except Battlefield, and what job do you have? Okay, so as for my job, well, I'm a sound engineer and I teach music. And as for the other games that I play, well, on a regular basis, I play Insurgency, I play Arma 3, I play War Thunder, and I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 2 recently on my iPad, and I also just started playing Watch Dogs, so I'm pretty keen for that. Okay, so next on the list is Grumpu Gap, who writes, do you love me? ? Sad face. Why is it a sad face? I mean, do you not want me to love you? I mean, I do love you. I mean, it's not like we're going to get married. I mean, you're not Bruce Willis, but I've got to say, man, like, I don't know why you'd be sad about that. Okay, so coming up next, SSJ2IAN writes, what capture card do you use for your gameplay? Man, I use an Elgato game capture, just the first one, not the HD60. I'd love to get a HD60, but at this point in time, I'm not really too fast on PS4 60 FPS videos. Alright, so the next question comes from Lenart Beston, I think I pronounced that right. What about playing with another YouTuber? Well, I do that quite a bit, man. I've actually got a playlist if anyone wants to check it out, which is all about unedited gameplays, and I've done quite a few dual comms with other YouTubers in the past. I don't really do it a lot these days because I prefer to do the scripted sort of style videos. They tend to get a bit more views, but I would definitely like to do some more terrible setups and that sort of thing in the future. So the next one comes from Video Dead Gaming, who writes, have you ever been bitten / stung by any of the many bitey / stingy things that live in Australia? I've been bitten by what's called a St. Andrew's cross spider. They hurt a lot, but they're not really that fatal, clearly, because I'm still sitting here. There's actually quite a lot of deadly things in Australia, but you don't really see them that much. I think people seem to think that there's a redback crawling around everywhere in Australia and you're going to get bitten by it every week, but that just doesn't happen. And also, just to let you know, redback spiders are not fatal. As far as I know, redback spiders have never killed anyone, but apparently the antidote can kill you, but the actual spider bite can't. Okay, so the next one comes from Joe Jury, who writes, what advice can you give an American for celebrating Australia Day? Well, if you want to celebrate it like probably 80% of Australians, you need to get really drunk, you need to wear the Australian flag as a cape, you need to wear thongs. Thongs are not a G-string, thongs are what you guys would probably call flip-flops. And yeah, basically you need to just go around saying stuff like mate and fair dinkum and like, oh, what else would you say? Oh, crikey, and you know, stuff like that. Stuff that Australians don't actually say, but the rest of the world probably thinks we do say. Okay, so this is a pretty good question to follow on from that last one. God of Light writes, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of an Aussie stereotype are you? Well, I guess that just depends on what you consider an Aussie stereotype. Are we talking about Hugh Jackman? Because I'm definitely not as cool as that guy. Are we talking about Russell Crowe? Because I pretty much don't get drunk and hit people with phones. If we're talking about Mel Gibson, well, he's not really an Aussie stereotype anymore. He speaks with an American accent. And I guess that only just really leaves Steve Irwin, which is pretty much like no other Australian that I've ever met. So just for everyone watching out there, no one in Australia actually acts like Steve Irwin. So I'm going to say maybe like a 3 out of 10. Okay, so the next question comes from Scorpius, who writes, congratulations, have you ever shot a real gun? I have actually. My dad was a sporting shooter, so I grew up around guns. And yeah, my brother actually owns quite a few, which I'd really like to start using a fair bit more. Not on anyone in particular, just to shoot targets and that sort of thing. Okay, so coming in next, Ollie is Small writes, would you like to visit Europe someday? Why or why not? Well, yeah, man, I actually would like to go and visit Europe. I don't get a lot of time to travel, but I've got family that lives in Switzerland that I'm sort of expected to go and visit at some point, and I just think Europe has a lot of history and I'd love to check it out. Alright, so coming in next, Sergio Lungu writes, what do you think about airsoft? Well, man, I think it looks really fun, but we've got pretty strict gun laws in Australia, so I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to check it out. As far as I know, you can't do it in this country, so I'd have to travel overseas to be able to give it a go. Alright, so next on the list comes from Game Freak. 2 questions. 1, will you ever do a face reveal? And 2, are you a big fan of Pink Floyd? I probably will do a face reveal at some point. I'm not really sure when. I don't really have an amazing camera. I do have a HD camera, but I'm not sure it's really up to YouTube quality. And to be honest, I sort of like the anonymous aspect of YouTube anyway. As for, am I a big fan of Pink Floyd? Man, I love Pink Floyd. I think Dark Side of the Moon is probably one of the best albums ever made. And anyone who's watching who hasn't heard that album, then definitely go out and give it a listen. Okay, so the next question comes from Callsign Avenger91, who writes, if you could make any video game you wanted, what would it be? Probably Fallout 4. I'm assuming that probably will come out someday. So I'm probably going to say Baldur's Gate 3. And I'd like to see it in like a first-person style like Skyrim. Maybe even if Bethesda made that game, that'd be freaking awesome. Okay, so the next few questions come from Tony SVT Gaming, who's managed to put in about 4 into the one comment. Do you miss your dog tags? What's your favourite food? Did you get your phone fixed? And if you had to choose between being blind and having no taste buds, what would you choose? Do I miss my dog tags? Dude, you can have them. I don't really care. What's your favourite food? I love Japanese food. Did you get your phone fixed? Man, I'm not even sure about what you're talking about. My phone breaks probably on a regular basis, so let's just say it works at the moment. And if you had to choose between being blind and having no taste buds, man, clearly having no taste buds. I want to sort of be able to see things. That would be awesome. Okay, so we're getting down to the last few questions now. The next one comes from ATP0 Dude, who writes Xbox One or PS4. Well, man, I decided to pick the PS4 because it had a clear difference in power over the Xbox One, but apparently the Xbox One is getting a CPU upgrade. That all being said though, neither of the consoles are going to get 1080p and 60 FPS all of the time in every game, so if you're looking for which one is better overall, I'd have to say they're both in the same boat, but I'd have to edge on the side of the PS4. Okay, so the next question comes from Aksu Jokinen, who writes, if BF5 would be World War II themed, what weapons and attachments would you like it to have? Well, I've sort of spoken about this in a recent video on World War II Battlefield games, and honestly I don't think they could do a lot with attachments, but in terms of weapons that I'd like to see, definitely the Garand, definitely the Kar 98K, definitely the Sturmgewehr, and definitely the MP40. I'm assuming these are all weapons that would be in any World War II game, but I definitely would like to see these ones, and I don't think any Battlefield game would be complete in a World War II setting without these guns. Okay, so coming in next, Coldboy33 writes, what games are you looking forward to in 2015? Well, the two main ones are Battlefield Hardline and Battlefront 3. I was actually talking to a couple of guys the other day about Battlefront 3, and everyone seems to be looking forward to it, but nobody knows really why. We haven't really heard much about the game, but I think just because the first two games were that good, I'm pretty sure me and everyone else I know is looking forward to the game. Okay, so we're down to the last two questions now. Ian Games TV writes, I just want to know what you think of the counter-knife mechanic in the game, and should it stay in Battlefield 4? Well, I think Battlefield 4 is at the end of its life cycle now, so I don't think we're going to see any changes to this game. But in Hardline and in the future in Battlefield 5, I really would like to see the counter-knife mechanic stay, but I wouldn't want to see it the way it is now. I'd like to see more of like a quick time event for both players so that basically the person getting knifed doesn't have the advantage all of the time. Okay, so the last question on my list, probably a good one to finish on. Matthew Gresty writes, what are your plans for the future? Do you plan on making YouTube a long-term thing? Well, man, it's been a year so far, and honestly, I can't see an end to this. I really like it, and as long as they keep making Battlefield games or first-person shooter games like Battlefield in general, I'm probably going to keep making YouTube videos. Just as long as you guys stick around though. I can't make these videos unless you guys keep watching them. So thanks heaps for sticking with me, and thanks heaps for getting me to 5k subscribers. And here's to 6k, and hopefully I'll see you guys all then. Hopefully I'll see you guys all at 10k or maybe 20k. As for do I plan on making this a long-term thing in the future, I'd love to make it like a part-time job someday, but the only way I can do that is with your support. But anyway guys, that just about wraps up this Q&A, so let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you want to ask any questions that you didn't quite manage to get into this video, then feel free to put them in the comments and I'll answer them there. As always, if you like what you see, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. And if you haven't already, please check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos. I've got them all linked in a playlist in the description below. But until next time, see you later and have a good one.